Hello everybody, my name is Alexander Kozina, and you're currently watching the third ever KozinaForKindaFunny Direct, where I talk directly to you about my ambitions to be KindaFunny's next up-and-comer. If you've been following my campaign from the get-go, you'll know that it's been a hot minute since I released the second KozinaForKindaFunny Direct. Like everyone else in the world, the threat posed by the coronavirus threw me for a loop and forced me to slow down my plans for a bit as I adjusted to the new normal around me. I also felt obliged last month to get the Canadian-themed gaming podcast I co-host, Press YYZ, live on Twitch, which took a fair bit of time out of my schedule as well. But now that May is here, I'm ready to resume my campaign as normal, and I intend to do so today by discussing some of the longer-term projects that I want to do with the KindaFunny crew in the future. These are ideas for shows that logistically wouldn't be possible for myself and the rest of the KindaFunny crew to do in a single week, but that I feel are worth talking about all the same, so that I can better illustrate my overall vision for what kind of content I want to do with KindaFunny in the future. And who knows, maybe when my up-and-comer week approaches, we could figure out how to abridge some of these ideas into week-long projects, or come up with an entirely new project that's inspired by one of them. The way I see it, it's better to have an excessive amount of ideas than to have too few. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. While I tend to do a fair bit of my gaming today on Sony's consoles, I grew up exclusively playing Nintendo's platforms and remain a big fan of the Big N to this very day. No other company in the industry makes games as delightful and charming as it does, and within the context of KindaFunny, no other company is more deserving of its own exclusive podcast. As we all know, KindaFunny currently hosts a PlayStation-centric podcast called PS I Love You XOXO, and has plans to get an Xbox-centric podcast off the ground soon. It's only logical that they should have a Nintendo podcast as well, and if I were to be put in charge of co-hosting this podcast, I would draw from my experience producing documentaries for the YouTube channel Gamers, and have it be equally about the company's present and past. The first half of each episode would focus on all the new Nintendo games our listeners would need to know about, while the second half would focus on a major event or year in Nintendo's past, and gradually educate our listeners on how a small Hanafuda company in Kyoto became an international juggernaut. I believe that this format would allow the podcast to stand out from the litany of other Nintendo podcasts that are currently out there and do something really unique. Like I said at the front of the Direct, it would be a sizable undertaking that would require far more than a single week to get off the ground. But when it does, I'd love to call this show the House of N. Recently, Barrett Courtney experimented with merging KindaFunny's in-review series with the world of gaming and produced The Legend of Zelda in Review. While it would seem for now that this in-review will be the only of its kind for the next few months, I believe that many more video game in-review series await the channel in the future, and that with the right format, these series could become some of KindaFunny's most esteemed pieces of content. In a perfect world, my version of the video game in-review series would bring together multiple people within KindaFunny, myself included, to play through whatever franchise we would choose to evaluate. Each episode would focus on critiquing a single game in the franchise in question, and would feature an interview halfway through with someone within the industry that has some sort of attachment to said game. This could be someone that was directly involved in the game's development, or perhaps a speedrunner, or a content creator whose life has been inexorably linked to the game's world for years. This will allow our audience to learn things about the games we're assessing that can't be learned on trivia websites, and enable us to really increase the value proposition of each episode. I'm not going to downplay it, this is a really ambitious idea, and would require a tremendous amount of time, planning, and effort to put into motion. But if done right, I believe that KindaFunny's video game in-review series could be some of the channel's most polished and compelling pieces of content, a boutique show that would only release occasionally, yet be the talk of the town whenever it returned. At the end of the day, however, KindaFunny will always have its prime in-review series, and I want to make my mark on it by organizing an in-review of the anime Pokemon movies. There is no single film franchise that I have more experience with than the Pokemon movies, and if I were put in charge of giving them a look over with the KindaFunny crew, I would work hard to sate our audience with a thorough breakdown of what makes these movies so memorable, as well as how they were adapted from their original Japanese versions. Given that there are now well over 20 anime Pokemon movies, I don't know whether it would make sense for us to do a rewatch of every single one of them. But I do know that with the right direction, Pokemon in Review could be one of the most interesting and informative series that Kinda Funny has ever hosted. But if Pokemon isn't to your liking, no problem, because I'm also a huge fan of The Matrix, and would love to spearhead an in-review series of it as well. I believe that every entry in the Wachowskis' subversive action franchise holds up better than most believe, and in many ways help pave the way for many of the modern interconnected movie universes that dominate pop culture today. If I were put in charge of reviewing them alongside the Kinda Funny crew, I would make sure that this aspect of them is thoroughly dissected, and make a point of cross-referencing their themes with some of the most pertinent scholarly work and theories that have been written about them in the decades following their releases. As usual, if you liked this video, be sure to share it with your friends, and to tweet out your support for me with the hashtag KozinaForKindaFunny to raise awareness of my cause. I plan on sharing this video on all the social platforms that I'm on shortly after its debut, and I would be forever indebted to you if you could help further promote its existence. I also recommend that you check out my appearance in Matt Batson's video on the Grappler if you haven't yet, and to tune in to twitch.tv/PressYYZ at 8 PM on Wednesdays to watch episodes of Press YYZ Live. With the coronavirus still running its course, it's largely unknown how it is that the up-and-comer program is going to net out over the rest of 2020, or for that matter when the voting process is going to open up. But until then, I'm going to be continuing to produce content of this nature, and I hope that you all will continue to look forward to it. Thank you for watching.